Are you thinking about joining us here in the Sunshine State? Well, today we're going to be talking about the cost of living in Central Florida, so stick around. Hi everyone, my name's Krista and I'm a realtor with Fathom Realty here in the Orlando area. If you're new to my channel, may I suggest that you click on the subscribe button below so that you get informed every time I put up a new video, which is about once a week. So today, in researching for my video on the cost of living in Orlando, I consulted with the bankrate.com website, which is probably what everyone else does, and I don't really want to regurgitate the numbers that they're providing. But I do want to point out one thing. On that website, which will give you a pretty good idea of if you make $50,000 in one city, how much your salary needs to be in Orlando to maintain the same style of living, they say that the average home price in Orlando is like right around $200,000, but the freshest information from the Orlando Regional Realtor Association as of today is that the average home price is $260,000. So please do keep that in mind. I think the information on there might be a little bit outdated at this point. When I meet with new clients who are relocating here or have just moved here or getting ready to move here, I find that my clients from California and New York are usually thrilled with the prices in Orlando, and my clients from the Midwest are appalled. So what I want to do is just give you information from my experience and from what I've learned from my clients over the years about the cost of living in this area. So as mentioned right now, the average home price is about $260,000. You're probably not going to find a pool home, or if you do, it's probably going to be on the modest side. It is possible to find one. I have a video about that. And when we talk about Orlando, we're not just talking about the city of Orlando, but the greater area around it. And you can find much less expensive houses, obviously, the further out you go. In general, at least according to Bankrate, Orlando isn't wildly expensive and it isn't wildly inexpensive either. It seems to be just about average. But there are some costs that I want to discuss with you that you might not have thought about. First of all, utility bills. Now, in Orlando, it's hot pretty much year-round. Now, there are a few months when you probably won't need to use air conditioning, but your air conditioning ends up being a fairly large expense. So maybe from January till June, depending on where you live exactly, you may not have to use your AC or your heater. It does get down to freezing, but not that often. But other than that, your utility bill you might find is a bit higher than where you're coming from. Now, your water bill is going to vary greatly depending on where you live. Some homes have a private well. Some homes are on city water. Some have a base rate, and then your usage goes above and beyond that. Some include garbage, and some don't. So it's very hard to compare exactly what your water bill might be. But here's one thing I want you to think about. If you're planning on having a nice lawn, you're probably going to need irrigation. And if your irrigation is hooked up to your city water, your water bill is going to be a lot higher. So in looking for a home, you might want to consider finding one that uses reclaimed water or has a well for irrigation. Many people that I show houses to are used to having gas. Natural gas, it's not uncommon, but it's not completely common either. So if that's something that you're interested in, you might want to specifically look for homes that have natural gas. Natural gas in Florida is typically used for the hot water heater, the stove. I happen to have a gas heater and a gas dryer. That's fairly unusual. I don't know if I've ever sold a home that had a gas heater in Florida, but my heater runs off of natural gas. As far as transportation costs go, gas is a little bit more expensive in Florida because it has to be transported further and there are no states more southern, so it is the last stop. Within Central Florida, we don't have like a metro system. We do have a sunrail that goes kind of in a line from DeLand down to Poinciana. You can use it to commute if your place of employment happens to be close to the sunrail or one of the stops. But for the most part, people drive. And they tend to take I-4, which is not a toll road. There are other roads that you can take that have a toll that are much nicer and much smoother. You will probably need to get a SunPass or an E-Pass. And I will put a link to those websites so you can see what that might cost. If you purchase a home with a swimming pool, you're going to need to be prepared to pay for the pool. Generally, people pay someone to take care of the swimming pool. Your water bill is higher. Your power bill might be higher for that. And lawn service is another thing that most people do need to pay for because simply in the summer, everything grows too fast. It rains a lot, the grass gets really, really tall, and it pretty much needs to be cut on a weekly basis. And since it's so hot out, many people prefer to pass that service on to someone else and pay for it. That can cost you $100, $150 a month, depending on the size of your yard. I also want to point out that homeowners insurance is quite a bit more expensive in Florida than it is in other states. And that's simply because we don't have as many carriers who are willing to provide insurance in Florida. Due to the storms that we get through here, many times after a hurricane, certain providers will actually leave the state completely, which leaves us with even fewer carriers. And of course, the insurance costs are going to be higher if you live on the coast, if you live in a flood zone, or if you have an older home. And by older, I mean a 30-year-old home can be more expensive. Now, if you're purchasing a new home, your insurance rates will probably be comparable to what you're paying elsewhere. Car insurance in Florida is also a bit more expensive, and that's because we have a lot of uninsured drivers, we have a lot of tourists who don't know their way around, we have a lot of elderly drivers, and so you probably will want to call your insurance provider and just discuss with them based on what zip code you're living in and what kind of a car you have, what your car insurance payment might be. I find it really difficult to talk about the cost of food in Orlando. Obviously, if you're going to be on International Drive or near the theme parks, the cost of food is going to be pretty high. But if you're living in one of the cities around Orlando, I think you'll find it's comparable to just about anywhere else. Another expense you may not even have thought about is the homeowners association. So a lot of houses in Central Florida are located within a homeowners association. Many of those range in costs from $300 a year if you're just maybe paying for the sign at the entrance to the community to a couple thousand or more if you're paying for a home that has lawn care or maybe a gate and a guard. Those will be much more expensive. There are a few things that you'll find you will save money on. For example, Florida has no state income tax. That's a great benefit. We do, of course, have sales tax, and that includes on clothing. Here's another thing you probably didn't think about. You don't need to buy winter clothing anymore. I can tell you I have a wool sweater and a ski jacket that I have not worn in 15 years. I just keep them in case, but they're just taking up closet space right now. There's literally no need to have them. We also get discounts to the theme parks. So if you are moving here because of Mickey or the Magic Kingdom or Universal or SeaWorld, you will be able to get a Florida annual pass. The same is true for cruises. You can get special Florida discounts, and you can sail straight out of Fort Lauderdale, so you won't have to fly here. There's ports in Cape Canaveral. That's probably the closest to Orlando, Tampa, Miami, and we do get those at a discounted rate. So if you have any questions about the cost of living, specifically in Central Florida, please feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to email me, text me, call me, whatever is easiest for you. I love to hear from my viewers, so please feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching.